Now, welcome. So, we have our All-Ireland Football semi-finals. 12th of July, Saturday, Kerry against Tyrone, Croke Park, 5 o'clock. And then next day, Donegal, Meath after, I think we can say, a brilliant quarterfinal weekend. As ever, our GAA coverage is with thanks to AIB at the heart of Gaelic games across both club and county. In 25, they are celebrating a decade of sponsoring the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship. And this year's championship, pretty much the best in years, so they're more excited than ever to bring fans closer to the action. You can check out #TheToughest for more. So, Kerry, Tyrone, Donegal, Meath are our final four. Happy to say, here in studio, Conan Doherty, hello to you.
Hello, Joe.
Billy McMahon, very welcome again, hello.
Thanks, Joe.
And Conor McKeon. I mean, Colin Keys, Meath get to their first All-Ireland
yeah, he's keeping his head down, isn't he?
He's gone serious now, give him the head down. I'd like to thank Conan for wearing trousers. Conor McKeon waltzed in shorts, said sex sells this morning.
You have to give the people what they want.
And Philly joined you, so there we go.
There we go.
Legs are out. Broad terms, a fun weekend, wasn't it? Again.
In a different way, though, I thought the over-under on the number of draws of the weekend could be 2, that we had 4 really closely matched quarterfinals. And I'd like to point out that in the Irish Independence preview video, I only got 3 of the 4 predictions wrong. So that just shows what kind of weekend. But I didn't see there being, in the end, it was interesting for a different reason. I think by Saturday night, we left there thinking that Donegal were playing football at a different level. And then last night it was shock and awe stuff from Kerry.
Well, let's work backwards then. Armagh 121, Kerry 32 points at Croke Park. Philly, this game will be remembered for that 15 minutes.
Yes. Kerry absolutely blew Armagh out of the water in 15 minutes. It was a cagey start. It was kind of 2 boxers kind of picking off each other to see where their weaknesses are, and then Kerry just absolutely dominated the kick out and went for the jugular. And Armagh had nothing in their army to stop it. And it just shows you how the game has become a shootout. It doesn't really matter. Well, to an extent, I do think if you were to say, well, if they're playing this weekend, what would the big change you'd make? Well, you have to expose Armagh in training to a team being dominant on your kick-out course, but why on earth would you not have somebody locking down Charlie O'Shea, who absolutely destroyed Armagh? Maybe people are saying it's because they wanted to stay in their structure and stay behind the arc, but it was, once he stepped up, it was nearly like, yeah, you're talking about all the Cliffords, and yeah, here I am now. I'm back at this level and kicking the lights out. But then Clifford steps up as well. So you're going to be Kerry this year now. From now on, you have to be scoring, and your efficiency rate must be really high.
Yeah, well, 32 points, I mean, it's like a kind of a hurling score. In that 15 minutes, it was nearly all Armagh kickouts. The ball didn't very often go the other end of the pitch. So between minute 40 and 55, of Armagh's 11 kickouts, Kerry won 8 of them, got 9 scores just from those kickouts. 14 points to 0, 14 points from 11 shots in total. So you can kind of forget they were 5 down. Around kind of 40 minutes at 5 down, you were thinking they're in a bit of bother here. And then they lead by 9. I've never seen such death by 1,000 cuts in a 15 minutes. It's just boom, boom. There's a rhythm to it. And Armagh couldn't break the momentum at all. Everything they tried.
It was relentless. They scored 13 points in 13 minutes. Yeah, I think they ended up winning 11 out of 14 kickouts in that period, which included 2 kickouts that went over the line then as well, because Ethan Rafferty was trying to go wider and wider to try and find space, and the only space he could find was in row A. But Kerry just didn't stop, and they scored every time. I mean, you always hear coaches talking about keeping the scoreboard taking over. Even when it looked like Armagh might have slowed them down, somebody would fist the ball over the bar, they would sprint back out in the position and go again, and they just didn't stop. And yeah, it was led by Sean O'Shea. I mean, Sean O'Shea had the look of a man who had Jack O'Connor plant an article on his face beforehand and say, what do you think of that?
Yeah.
What are you going to do about that?
It's fun. O'Shea was amazing. I sort of associate the first half more with O'Shea keeping Kerry, not in it, but he was their standout guy, kicking 2-pointers, really keeping them ticking over. I associate the second half more with Clifford.
But like, see, Armagh scored a goal, and who goes straight up and scores? Sean O'Shea.
Yeah.
Who runs straight back into position after he scores.
That was first half, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, but the Sean O'Shea, the whole game, I thought was keeping them in reach. I mean, even when Clifford was getting into it, it was him who sets up Sean O'Shea for the 2-pointer.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was Clifford thinking, okay, I've won that ball. I've teed him up for a 2-pointer. Now I'm in the game. And then he started getting going then as well. So I just feel like the constant throughout the 70 minutes, because like, obviously Clifford was amazing as well, but I really don't want to underplay how inspirational. I mean, that was one of the greatest performances I've seen at Croke Park from Sean O'Shea. I mean, it was just non-stop, and it was a man who was fed up being written off.
I'm not playing it down at all. I'm just saying, I thought it was even more brilliant in the first half when they weren't necessarily, like, when you're winning every single kick out, you know, Micheál Burns is in the act, Gavin White, everyone's in the act, and he was chipping in then. But I thought first half, when Kerry weren't on fire necessarily, like O'Shea popping those 2-pointers crucial.
And he was wound up about it too. You could see he was given the, you know, either lift.
Hurling fist.
Yeah, the hurling. He was, you know, like, so he was very much in that mindset, you know, that every single one of these scores is a bit of a battle.
Yeah.
But like Sean O'Shea is a brilliant ball striker. He's as sweet a kicker of a ball. Like Rian O'Neill is another one. You saw glimpses of that. But if you give him space and time, he's going to crucify you. And Armagh inadvertently did that. Like the times when O'Shea has kind of gone out of games, particularly pre kind of Paddy Clifford coming on the scene, was when Kerry nearly had this idea of Sean O'Shea as the link man. And, you know, if you mark him with somebody with pace, he doesn't tend to be quite as involved. But as a kicker, as a scorer, particularly 2-point range, just a perfect sort of set of circumstances for him to play like that.
Such an elegant striker of the ball. And the 2-pointer in the second half off the left foot. I mean, you're kind of saying that's just not even fair now if you're doing that.
It's just confidence. Like, he's had such a good first half. He's pumped. He's energised. And at that stage, he's in bonus territory to be able to take shots. And he goes and does it. But I agree with the lads. Like, it was just a schoolboy error by Armagh. Like, a player with that potential being left with so much space. So
give us the way Armagh set up. They like this kind of zonal thing, and they use the arc as kind of give or take our mark. There was a pattern where O'Shea was either 3 metres back off that and they didn't come out to close him down. That's a bad idea. But then, to be fair to them, there were times where they did press out. And I thought Kerry did it really, as well as any team in the championship this year. They made it look so easy, as in, you step out to try and shut down our 2-pointer. It's a little dink pass over you, pop pass, 1-2, routine 1-pointer. I thought Kerry, whatever decision Armagh made, we're going to push up, little pop pass, 1-pointer, we're going to sit back, over to you, Sean O'Shea. I thought they made the Armagh defence look a little bit powerless to do much about it.
I think you have to be proactive. You have to do it when you're in the game, you know, because when the game drifts, that's what the opposition will do. They'll keep the ball out around the arc and they'll say, right, you're a couple of points down, come on out at us. And once they come out, like in soccer, you transition in behind it at the space. And at that level, with the forwards that Kerry have, you don't want to give them that amount of space. And I'm sure that's what was talked about defensively all week in Armagh. You know, stay compact, stay tight, don't let them get gaps in behind. There's such danger in behind with Clifford. But it's when you're in the game is when you really want to be, you know, testing the waters where... But, you know, the simple fix is really like, hold on, O'Shea is on form here today. Get someone on him, and who's central there that's holding that channel so that there's no space or gaps, you have to bring that in from the sideline. You have to bring that in from the furthest man out to the opposite side, and you shift across like Donegal do. So it's not even that you're saying it was a variation of players out there that you'd worry about. It was him, you know. And it has to be done while you're in the game, because, as I said, if you're 4 or 5 points down, like in the second half, you could see, I don't know if it was Grimley or somebody, they were looking behind and going, "Do we go out here? Like, we're a few points down, and they're keeping the ball and they're dictating the momentum here, and we won't." Like, I think someone, I don't know who was doing the co-coms, but he said Armagh hadn't got their hands on the ball for a period of time. I think it was like maybe 10 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
With the kickouts, the constant kickouts in that period, like they couldn't really get their hands on the ball. Like, maybe that time's a bit exaggerated, but at the end of the day, you can only practice that in your build-up, in your preparation, that if we need to go man-to-man, we have it there.
Yeah.
If we're 5 points down, we need to go to that default, which is man-to-man. The teams like Mayo over the years, without the new rules, used to be brilliant at that.
Yeah.
You're chasing the game, get up, go man-to-man. We have that in our army.
The thing that I found most impressive about Kerry, and it was so impressive, was how quickly they got to the shot. There was nobody standing around with the ball, sticking the hand up in the air, slowing the thing down. They were looking for the jugular. It was a proper power play in that period of time. They went and pressed like demons. It was about mindset and aggression and intent as much as anything else. And it's all well and good having David Clifford. And Paddy, when he came on as well, was very neat in his use of the ball.
Very good, yeah.
But their interplay, they're always looking for the shot. They're always looking for the shot. It's not get back to the guy in the D in the point guard position or whatever and this nonsense and everybody going around in circles. They knew at that moment in time that Armagh were vulnerable. They were a little bit shocked. They hadn't got their bearings. There was no real collective mindset because Armagh were starting to doubt that their shape was doing the thing that it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And in that period, they went to town and just maximised that period of dominance. And not to relate everything back to the rules, but like, this is everything that you wanted to see from Gaelic football. This was just relentless attack and a team expressing themselves and being front-footed and being rewarded for it. And their score taken was brilliant and everything else, but that's a consequence of everything else. You don't get to have that many scoring chances. Because I think they probably would have done their homework too. If you go back through all of Armagh's games this year, they've given up a huge number of scoring chances.
Well, we noted it after the Dublin game.
Yeah.
Dublin kicked a lot of wides, but the fact is they had close to 40 shots on goal.
I think Dublin had 37 shots on goal,
Yeah.
and I think Kerry might have had 36 or something like that the other day. So there's the difference. Now, the quality of the shots, you know.
32 points on the board.
You have to acknowledge that that's important, but I would still stem back to that Meath performance. I still think that's where the magic was created in Kerry's performance, because they struggled on the kick out, struggled on kick out, and a lot of people had given them the energy to write them off in their own backyard. And if you were to say what would be the key thing to get a really good performance, get you into the semi-final, that was the opposite to what happened against Meath. That was it. That was it. So we'll probably forget that Meath performance fairly quickly because of what they done and where they're going next. But I can tell you, the motivation, the energy, the tactics, every performance pillar you can think in the world came from that performance.
Well, on that, maybe you could well be right, because here is Jack O'Connor afterwards, and you know, a few things he wanted to get off his chest, and was asked about where the performance yesterday came from, the motivation, the fire, all of that.
Look, when everybody down, even in our own county, was throwing in the towel with us, I said, lads, I said in the dressing room after cabinet, I said, lads, I've been here before, where we've been written off, the fuck, completely written off. And a Kerry team written off in Croke Park are dangerous, because it just takes a bit of the heat off. It allows them to play with a kind of a freedom and abandon, and that's what you saw there today. We were being portrayed as a one-man team. I saw somebody writing this morning that said that the only Kerry player worthy of being called a Kerry player was David Clifford. Now, David's a great player, but David will tell you that there was a fair support cast there today, you know. But I think sometimes we're being judged on a different criteria to other teams. I mean, Dublin got beaten by Meath in the Leinster Championship. I didn't see any ex-Dublin players coming out slating the team or slating the management like we had down south in our county. There's a sense of commitment to the team and a sense of loyalty to the team. And unfortunately, a few pundits down our way left themselves down in that regard. I mean, what's to be gained by slating people? You know, it's the easiest thing in the world. I'm in the business of building people up. You know, I'm not in the business of knocking people. I spent all my life coaching underage school kids, minors, under 21, seniors, at every level. I'm in the business of building people, not knocking people. And I'd ask people that are knocking that group and knocking people involved with the group, look in the mirror and say, what have you contributed? What have you contributed to Kerry football off the field? You know what I mean? It's very easy to knock people. Go away and coach a team. Go away and coach a development squad. Go away and coach a minor team. That's how you help Kerry football, not knocking people.
Oof, I heard that.
What a brilliant interview.
Yeah, I was I
love the fuck thrown in as well.
We need more people coursing from the GAA world.
That's Darragh O'Shea's aiming that at, is it?
Yeah. I was upstairs in Croke Park filing my copy about Dessie Farrell, and the lads were going down in the lift to the media post-match after Armagh and Kerry, and then as one by one the lifts came back up and the lads were all getting big smiles on their faces.
It was worth going down.
Oh, was it what?
Yeah. Well, you can sense it there. He was burning.
Oh, there was so much honesty in that, wasn't there? Like it's brilliant. It sticks the fingers up at the people that were going after Kerry, down in Kerry particularly. Like, you know,
what did Darragh O'Shea say that was so egregious? Really?
Oh, that was it, didn't he?
Well, he said people are sick watching them. Like he said, people don't want to go watch this team. Like, this is a team who could potentially go on and win one of their sweetest All-Irelands ever. I mean, they've just gotten so many numbers out for a quarter-final match. They beat the champions. They beat a fancied Ulster team, you know, which is a little monkey that likes to hop up on their back every so often. And now they play Tyrone next. If they beat Armagh and Tyrone, get into an All-Ireland final, win the All-Ireland. I mean, this could be
if they were to beat Armagh, Tyrone and Donegal to win this All-Ireland, it may well be the greatest All-Ireland Kerry.
I appreciate that.
If I was Jack O'Connor, I'd be ringing Darragh O'Shea and saying, thank you very much.
What was so wrong with what Darragh O'Shea said before this game?
Because there was only one game that the Kerry were favourites for they won the league.
I know, but they've had a few seasons now.
He was basically saying you might as well wrap up now.
He said it feels done. Yeah.
They're finished.
Yeah, I mean,
which is crazy.
Like they won the All-Ireland, got to the All-Ireland final. They lost to the champions last year. They win the league this year. They lose one match, and then Darragh O'Shea saying people are sick of this team right the season off.
People were down on Kerry. It wasn't just Darragh O'Shea. I didn't. It was more of there's something off this year with Kerry. No,
not for me. They had one bad performance. They had poor sparring partners, I always say, in terms of the direction they were going in the season. And from me playing against Kerry over the years, I knew that wasn't the end of them. I knew it wasn't. No Kerry team just finishes like that.
I felt Armagh were very hotly tipped.
They were. You're right about that.
Darragh O'Shea doesn't need anyone to defend him, but him saying it feels over.
Yeah, it's not. I think it was probably the tone of it that it just felt a bit dismissive of a county that hadn't yet got a chance to go and kind of prove itself. Like they'd won Munster, they'd won the league. They were the reigning champions of the two competitions they had.
It was a funny league though. They were almost also relegated.
They were, but like I'm just saying, if you're the manager of that team and you know that the effort that they're putting in, and like Jack spoke after the Cavan game about the pressure that the players were feeling from their own supporters. So they're feeling quite besieged now at this stage, and it's a claustrophobic county. But look, Jack understands the dynamics of Kerry football as well as everybody else. Yeah, that point he made about Dublin and their past players and putting it's a difference. It's different in Kerry. Like everybody has a different. There's lots of very mad clicks that go on in Kerry, and
are Dublin footballers too soft as pundits on Dublin?
You've only 3 pundits at the minute. Have you 4? You've Wheelo, myself, Paul Flynn and Paddy Andrews. Are we all soft? I don't know, but we respect people putting their name towards the jersey, like, you know, particularly on a voluntary basis. Yeah. So when you look at Desi, he's a prime example of the amount of time and what he's achieved, and he's just a fella that is within the players' environment. Take away his role as a manager, he's a loved person in terms of what he's done. Like so, I think you get kind of a rogue in every county. Like, you know, I won't mention other counties, but particularly in Dublin, there's a huge amount of respect. If Dessie Farrell didn't win any All Irelands, that would be still there. Yeah,
well, we'll come to Dessie in a minute then. So, yeah, that 15 minutes, I guess, looms large in the thing, and just the quality of Kerry, like Clifford when he got going, David, like Paulie was brilliant as well, but I mean, there are times David Clifford does things still, and you're like,
it's the
stop it.
I know this is like, it's the contortions of his body, that's the maddest thing, because you can see him sometimes getting the ball along the arc, even if it's not quite outside, and you're thinking, well, if he takes one more step now, he needs to take one more step to shoot, and you can see his marker going to take that step with him to get on his foot, and then he nearly kind of jams on the brakes and somehow gets this weird kick-off when it looks like his body shape is such that the weight is on the wrong side of his torso or something. It's like he was amazing.
Did you like there's a little solo right in front of McCambridge's face?
Yeah,
it was just like it was like a messier Ronaldo saying, "I'm sizing you up, have a little smell," and bang.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And McCambridge has marked him a few times, and he's you look at McCain and you go, right, if you're going to be marking the best in the country and dominating them, you need to have, your agility needs to be a little bit better, like, you know, in regards to those moments. And I'm saying that, and I think there's not many players that have the agility and balance, as Conor mentioned there, that Clifford has, but you have to match that at least, or else just don't let him get on the ball. But that little poker trick of, here's the ball, put your hands in and grab it, is making you think, right, okay, if I put my hands in here, I'll get it. But then he's thinking, I'm stepping you, and then you're one behind every time. Like, but him coming in off his left, you can't give him that. You just can't. It's very hard to stop him regardless. But you just, if there's one thing he's going to, like, 99% of the time do when he's right in front of you, in front of the goal, is step left.
Yeah.
Do not give him that chance, because he can kick right, of course, but that's his go-to, I'd say, most of the time.
But it's like Arjen Robbins, who you saw against Cavan then, where he just took the line. He just went straight down the line on the right, went for a goal. So it is almost that. It's like if you try and block that, he's going to come in on the left. But everyone's so paranoid about his left that they'll give him the outside, and he can go. He's so fast and powerful.
Yeah, but there's bodies this with the new rules and the way Armagh were playing. There was bodies there.
Yeah.
And that particular clip, if you show him out to his right, he probably will still kick on his right.
Yeah.
But it's the least probability.
Yeah.
The fella like that's hard to stop.
There's no good option. You're in a one-on-one with Clifford. This isn't like with the new rules. That's going to happen more than it used to happen, and that's just not good. I'm in a one-on-one with Clifford, and he's on form.
And he missed a few in the first half, by the way.
Yeah, he missed.
And
his
you were
first
kind of
one.
going, is this a similar kind of pattern to what happened against Dublin?
I know, that's where, and because we had Tomas on last week, and we were talking about what happens in that first 10 minutes when David Clifford misses one. The crowd love it. He gets a dunt. And Tomas said, well, someone has to step up. And literally, Sean O'Shea went, okay, no problem. And that maybe that takes a bit of pressure off David Clifford as well. It's like, because there was one time he shot Clifford, David, and he shouldn't have. And it was such a, I'm David Clifford, I feel I should take this on moment. But he didn't have 8 of them, as he's had on kind of worse days. The question, just to finish, Armagh will ask themselves on the bus home is, in that 15 minutes, all right, everyone, what should we have done? Can I give you one suggestion?
Hit the ball down the middle.
Down the middle. Start. Like,
I'll give you mine, will I?
Well,
start the row. I know that's typical Philly and I'm blah, blah, blah.
You don't even know what he asked. That was just your answer.
Slow the game completely down. Risk, there might be a few bookings, but completely stop the momentum of the game. You can't go down with an injury anymore because you're getting taken off with the physio. Start some sort of a row to change the momentum of the game.
If I'm on the bus and you say that, I'm like, let's not take that off the table. Like, you don't have much to throw at the situation. That is one of the things. You couldn't say that's not the worst idea in the world.
They weren't winning the kick out. They just weren't. The energy, you're just so pumped when you know you can smell the blood. You can go, we're getting everything.
Well, I think you have to just start donking the kick out long, because Ethan Rafferty has one of the best kicks of the ball in the country. But even to sort of relate it to Saturday night with Patton and Beggan, they had such long kicks, and they're nearly low percentage, or they're kind of low tariff options, because you're going so long. It's almost like a hurling puck out.
Yeah.
If you go that long, you're going to have 12 players behind the ball
set.
anyway.
Yeah.
So, in as much as you'd like to tread these little balls, the mid-range kicks and fellas on the run and everything else, like, you just have to get it out.
In fairness to him, Conor, do you know what I really admired, bar that patch? He was drifting these balls in between players. And it was unreal. I was like, wow, that's an unreal kick. It was like there's a Kerry fella in front of the player he was hitting, and it was just drifting over his head into that. So he was probably thinking, I can keep kicking this, but it was becoming monotonous hitting out to his left into the Hogan stand.
Patton did that really well. Not to, again, jump back on Saturday night. Monaghan got a brilliant 4-4-4 formation on the press and the kick out. They obviously coughed up that goal. And in the second half, I don't know what way they rejigged it, but Patton was getting these kicks to runners who were moving between the zones. So somebody would go and 2 players would be caught as to when they were passing them on. And just in that split second, he was able to hit his mark. It was really...
Well, do you know what? He has a mixed bag. So he'll do those little kicks, and then you'll go, right, we have to push up a little bit higher, and then he'll just boom, a big long one. They have a variation, whereas Armagh didn't really have that in that moment.
They didn't.
They just kept doing the same thing.
It shows as well the problem with trying to do punditry in the championship, whereby, like, there was a game in Ulster where he had 16 of 17 or something. You know,
it's Tyrone.
Yeah, and so everybody says, that's sorted. And it's only one game. It's too small a sample size. You think of a Premier League season with 38 games. Yeah, Ethan Rafferty's kickouts might work for 7, 8, 9 games. But then you'll hit a bumpy patch. And when they hit a bumpy patch yesterday, there was no answer. And I thought it was crazy that he kept going to the sideline. Like, even if you think like in rugby parlance, what does a player do when they get the ball on the sideline? They get off the sideline as quickly as they can before they're bundled into touch. You imagine that ball floated to you and your back is against the touchline and your hand's up to catch it and you've got someone running at you. What are they going to do?
Well, the reason he's doing that, Joe, the reason he's doing that is because if he hits it down the middle and they concede, they're open wide.
But I think I took Conor's point.
Longer.
Go long and get set.
This is the other
I think plan should.
He was going long to the wing though.
No, to the wing, yeah, but like he could have been going
the
right
middle
in the pitch.
But I think you say on the to our Armagh bus discussion, why don't we have a plan when we start a row? Increasingly, I love that idea. But plan 2 is say the kickouts aren't going well. Right, we get in a defensive shell of everyone. You can smell it in the stadium. It's that period that's going to happen. We have a certain defensive set. Yeah. Rafferty, you boom it long. If we win it, brilliant. But if we don't, we're gonna keep these out for 3, 4, 5 minutes and just let the air of the thing settle down. Not another Micheál Burns point. Now he's after setting up Paddy Clifford for a point. You know, that kind of moment.
Because Kerry are up now as well. Yeah. So start the row, right? So that's the first protocol.
Yeah, that's our go-to.
Yeah. But then you do, like, the other thing is, Kerry, what they're doing is risky. Like, but he didn't try to sober them up once. Like, one ball over the top and not even win the ball. That would have made Kerry think, we can't get caught like this. We're 5 points up. We don't need to keep pressing this high and leaving ourselves so open at the back. So I think if he had gone once over the top and gave Kerry just a little fright, like that there was so much space or there was an Armagh man in behind, they might have just stepped off a little bit. They were so aggressive. The press was amazing to see.
I'm sure it's really hard. Don't get me wrong.
The only small aggravating factor, possibly aggravating factor even, is that I don't know how much it came across on the television, but both days there was a wind. Significant wind going into the canal end, and on Sunday it was actually stronger again. So you were kind of saying that the shooting into the canal end was nearly the scoring end. Over the both days, and particularly on the first day, the kickouts. Like, I've never seen so many goal chances or half goal chances come from kickouts from Began and Patton that actually carried everybody in midfield. And all of a sudden it's a 3-on-3 back there.
Well, that's tough. Well, then you just go as long as we can, but be in a shell that we can at least stop them scoring another quick point when the crowd are up. But maybe it is just start a fight.
Oh, well, if you want to look at somebody if you don't want to start a fight and you want to look at another team who does it really well, it's Donegal. Okay. They've such a range of kicks. I think that's your outlet, like, you know. But I do think.
How do you start the row? Who does what?
Well, if you get fouled, there's a great opportunity for you to pull a man down with you and see, can you get a few bodies in the round and confuse the ref. You are risking the black card, you are risking the yellow card, whatever. But I do think for that moment, it takes Kerry's focus away.
Yeah. Anyone think Kerry are favourites for the All-Ireland now?
I think they are.
Yeah.
Just because it was just so spellbindingly good.
Oh, well, if they do that again, they're not going to be beaten.
Yeah.
But having said that, I came away from Saturday night saying that Donegal...
I'm still Donegal.
I'm only still Donegal because I said it at the start of the year and I want to be proved right. And I was saying it before everyone... I was saying it before it became cool, before they were the hipsters.
Oh yeah, no one saw McGuinness and Donegal coming.
You told me Dublin at the start of the year.
I was saying Dublin trying to be like a deep thinker over here, but clear up my face.
Meath 2-16, Galway 2-15. First half kind of cagey. Last 20 minutes amazing. How, like, a few shots to the crowd. People are just like thrilled by the sport at the moment. It's so good. Like, people are losing their minds in that last 20 minutes. Just bonanza. Amazing.
We are in danger of falling into hurling analysis here. How good is our sport?
It's just so good.
No negativity.
Yeah.
I used to have to watch so much GAA over the last 10, 15 years, with the exception of those Dublin Mayo games. But like, really resented it. Like, it was just so bad. And I remember, like, you know, Spillane and these guys would be like derided for, they're puke football and they're giving out about the game. But like, they were just right. It just was crap compared to what we saw yesterday. Yeah. That last 20 minutes.
But the first half was awful. Meath Galway, it's a weird example they picked.
You'll still have bad games.
That's the FRC are going to have to start looking at first halves now.
Exactly.
They've
Job's not done.
Get rid of first halves.
Yeah.
Just have second halves.
Apparently they're still changing the rules week on week.
Start the row.
Start the row.
What are we saying about Meath beating Galway?
it's hard for me to speak about Meath, but they are.
Can I just say that for me, before if you don't mind me cutting in there, quote of the weekend was Robbie Brennan. I wasn't here either, but the lads told me afterwards. He was saying that it was great to go forward and also representing Leinster in the All-Ireland.
Not leave it to all the Ulster teams.
They need someone to represent Leinster.
I'll leave it to all the Ulster teams. It's impressive. Like they don't show they show a team that's full of confidence at the minute, and they've you listen to a couple of the interviews after by the players, and they're all talking about being allowed to express themselves and go at it. You look at who was it that was kicking the lights out for them?
Jordan Morris. 6, yeah.
He was unstoppable. Like he was just.
His ball control is.
There was one. Yeah, there was. I'm just going to go to that. Facing into the hill. I don't know which half that was on, but he just took a step and bounced the ball at the same time.
Right, his dummy bounce is
and
now.
I was like, my God,
Unbelievable.
I haven't seen that.
We're seeing innovation in the game. See, I think as well, guys like this wouldn't have a chance to express themselves like this before.
I have a theory. Can I just put it out there before everyone else jumps on it, like my Donegal tip, which is one of the things that the FRC's ruled, the only kind of black mark against them, or not even a black mark, is that
black card.
The amount of variation is gone. Every team more or less plays the same way. Now that was happening anyway, but there's no real styles. But within that, what we're seeing is individuals come to the fore again, because for a long time,
big time,
like, if you're a journalist and it's your job to do those stupid little player ratings that sort of we persist with, for a long time it was actually hard to watch a match and figure out who had played well, because your job was, when you have possession, shovel it on to the next man, and when you don't have possession, you're a brick in a wall. Whereas now people actually have to do stuff, and we're seeing, I think we'll end up sort of paying more, like we'll have more footballers in our head for the things they've done this summer than any other year.
It's so funny you say that, right? Because again, a lot of the last decade, every summer come around and I'd be like, I just can't remember who these guys are. Their names, their faces, they're all just like, they're just the same size, the same body shape, do exactly the same thing. Whereas like this guy, Jordan Morris, there'll be kids practicing that bounce now.
Oh yeah.
Not to do a think of the children, but like, how many skills do you think I'm going to go out and practice that?
Oh yeah.
Style of play now. I would have mentioned it a few weeks ago in the column. Like it's this Connaughty, Morris. You have Walsh. They're all these guys that Clifford. They can just balance the way they play. Like they're in these tight spaces. They have the skill set and the agility to move. And the defenders are going to have to catch up with that now eventually, because it's so hard to mark.
Yeah. I think as well, there's more one-on-one opportunities whereby, like, if you're a Jordan Morris or who was it for? It was for Tyrone. Owen McElhone off the bench. Yeah. So the game is set up now that you have one-on-ones again, and that is scary as hell if you're a defender. So there was against Dublin, not to get into that game, but it proves the point. Owen McElhone at one stage was like, "I have a one-on-one. It's 10 yards behind you. I'm just going to go at you," and went around him and scored an inspirational point.
Yeah.
A year ago, he's checking back, recycling. So,
can I just make a point?
Jordan Morris.
On Morris, the day that Meath lost to Louth in the league and they missed out on promotion, he fractured his tibia and he tore his PCL and had a sort of a nick of his ACL. It obviously wasn't a full tear. And if you watch it again, it looks... I remember watching it in real time. I was at a different match, but I was watching that game on the TG Carr player, and it's horrific looking. His whole leg went backwards and he went over it. And Robbie Brennan said afterwards, look, and without even talking to a physio or a doctor, he said, look, Jordan's gone for the year. Done and dusted. Yeah. And he was unstoppable yesterday. It was actually incredible.
I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
So for a team that obviously, off the back of a terrible year last year, like it's kind of awkward, difficult for Colin O'Rourke.
All the same players, more or less.
Yeah, they lose 2 coaches during the league in very unexpected, bad fashion, and then they have their moment against Dublin. But then Louth sort of quash any. You're not that good. Could have easily just taken the belief out of them. What kind of a job here has Robbie Brennan done?
Well, one of the great jobs. I mean, if you think about what Jim McGuinness inherited in 2011. And how he managed to get that team going. I mean, Robbie Brennan's doing something similar in terms of the team that he inherited, and Meath completely written off. And now look where they're at. They're in the All-Ireland semi-final. They were the better team in that Leinster final. They didn't win it. Louth deserved to win it, and they deserved their day. But like Meath, have been consistent on that front. They just lost that match. And also, we're talking about the rule changes. They are a team who are playing in the spirit and I think the logic of the rule changes. So you've so many coaches and pundits asking, how do you defend? Like, how do we close down the space? How do we stop the 2-pointers? But how do we stop goals happening? How do we use these 11 players to defend better? Whereas Meath they're asking the question a bit more of how do we win the ball in the middle of the pitch, and how do we get the ball forward, and how do we score?
That's how they defend.
Exactly. And what they're doing is trying to win matches in the new rules. They're playing a completely new game. We always talked about when they were coming in, geez, it could be a bolter here. Some team that aren't as highly rated. I didn't think it was going to be Meath.
No.
But they could come along and they could just adapt to these new rules. Robbie Brennan might have done this anyway in the old rules.
Yeah. He didn't like the rules during the league.
No,
He was saying,
and
"This isn't football."
he did have a little whinge about
Yeah,
it.
he was like, "This is not football."
But my
He likes it
God,
now.
I wonder if you asked him now.
You were going to come in
Yeah, do you know who's worth really mentioning that I'm impressed by so much is Menton.
in midfield.
Yeah, he's such a warrior for me. Like he was
Donald
at times
Keoghan
as a
the same.
full back. Keoghan the same, was brilliant. But it's just like they're a team that there's very little pressure on right now, and they're just like, let's have a crack here, like
Yeah.
you know. And I think flip that to the Louth game, there was the pressure of beating a team that maybe were on par a little bit, maybe over them, but it was a Leinster title.
Yeah.
Which now they're just like, here, we've bet Dublin, we've bet Kerry, let's go after Galway. And the pressure is less. And I think they'll build that. That will probably be
Good
another
footballers,
case.
though. They have really, really good footballers that we've seen more of this year, who seem to be in a cohesive team. And you see more of the good footballers. Like Matthew Costello was absolutely brilliant yesterday. Caulfield as well. Like, they've pace and they can move the ball quickly, and they just look like they have a pretty defined game plan. And when it gets to that real cutting edge stuff up front, which is an area that Meath struggled. There was a long time there where there was a rotating cast of Meath forwards that were kind of going out of favour and coming back into it. And this is a sort of not a young team necessarily, but they're at the stage where they can kick on as a group collectively. And the stimulus that they badly needed was a solid season. And like beating Dublin, Kerry and Galway in a year, like regardless of what happened in the Leinster final now, like they've somehow managed to orchestrate a situation where that doesn't even matter anymore.
Of their 2-16, 2-7 were from turnovers, which is amazing. And against those three big teams, like they've won the breaking ball in midfield. You know, they just have been. Joyce said, interesting comment, we didn't have the energy levels today. So that's all year we've been like, Galway, come on. And we felt they were going to run out of time. So not having the energy levels, what did you make of their performance?
Like, I was actually at a dinner do there up in Derry, and I was sitting beside Brendan Rodgers, and he was tipping Galway to win it, and I was like, I don't really see it in them.
The All-Ireland?
To win the All-Ireland.
Right.
And I says, and what ground? He says, well, I've played them this year, and I feel like they've got a variation of the way they play. And I was going, okay, fair enough. You've played them, I didn't.
Yeah.
But watching in on them, it's just like Conor coming on, you were expecting that'll be the leader they need, and he played unbelievable when he came on, but they just couldn't. Like, it was for me a team that just couldn't dictate the momentum at the right time, and show Meath that, hold on, we're the boys at the top table, not yours. And they gave a huge amount of respect. Or maybe Meath just maybe said, no, hold on a second, we're going to take your scalp here. Like, but I do think they it was like they had no answers to some of the questions that Meath were asking.
Because they scored 2-3 in the space of 4 minutes. And you thought, okay, they're on here. And still, again, Meath came back again.
They're almost hostages, though, to this kind of mad flow of the game now. Like, they don't seem to be able to start a row. But they're like, even against Down and Newry, like they were a better team than Down. And I know Down played well, but it's almost like you couldn't be certain that Galway aren't going to win any game, because if you're half decent, they'll give you a chance. They concede a lot of scores. They don't seem to be able to really kind of stem the flow when it goes against them. And that's what it kind of felt like the other night. Like, when they had the authority of the game, they were nearly sort of happy to wait until it came around again for them, if you know what I mean. And they've a lot of options up front as well, but they've gone beyond kind of Shane Walsh dictating the entire momentum of the thing. And like, even at the end when he took that 2-pointer, like nonchalantly, just to put them back within a squeeze, that's the frustrating thing from Galway. It's that their potential, their capacity is really enormous. Yeah. But you just feel maybe in a general sense that they might have missed the window.
Yeah, well, Joyce's 7th season is a question, but before we come to that, Martin McNally generally praised by everyone for letting the game flow.
Big time. Yeah,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
looking at that.
Fender loves it.
You know, and I am not definitely a fan of referees when I was playing, like, you know, and I'd have the good crack on BBC with Maurice Deegan, but I looked at the game and I went, that's a foul. Oh no, that's a foul. And he's just letting it flow. And I'm like, oh, actually, I like this.
Yeah.
You know, he was just letting it flow. There was fouls all over the place and just going, go on, go on.
Is that just like what you said there? Do I have a problem? There's fouls all over the place. I think if you're a referee and there's a foul, give the foul.
Stops it, stop, start. It's just let it flow. Let them go at each other. Let them hit each other and just go end to end. Step out off the pitch nearly as a referee and let them go at it.
There's definitely a balance. Like, you let it flow. Like, I think Brendan Cawley got it right sometimes. You know, where you would see a foul given when it's not really a foul, or you know, someone's jumping up and their chest hits someone's back and they give a push in the back, which is not a push in the back. But here, I think it was O'Flaherty for Galway before the first Meath goal. He's completely fouled. He's actually pulled and then tripped.
That was a defining moment there.
But Mark McNally's letting it flow, and then the ball's up the other end, and they score a goal. And I just think, again, we're making the hurling comparison. It's like we can get into a dangerous area where we're like, just let them off.
I don't think he'd be able to get away with too much of it, but I think he got a nice balance. There was one or two that dictated the momentum of the game, but I just stepped back and went,
but you know,
he has had a good game there. Like,
he's
let that flow.
It's an interesting question for the game. If, like, Per McCambridge is now, when he faces Clifford, going to have a lot more one-on-ones. Like, if it's kind of like a forwards game almost increasingly, there will be that degree of, well, like, I have to put my hands on him. I have to. It can't be like whistle happy and 1v1s all. It'll become basketball. Like, you sort of need to allow defenders to get stuck in a little bit.
Let them get stuck in, and when they foul, give the free kick.
There were some like rucks. You know, like, it's hurling everywhere here, but like there were some good old fashioned rucks in that Meath Galway game.
Good,
that is brilliant when there's a ruck, because so much of Gaelic games over the last few years has been there's no turnover in possession. Like, we're seeing full on rucks, like someone trying to pick it up, smash, someone else come in.
There were no contests for the longest time. Like, Gaelic football had almost become a non-contact sport
completely,
because it was just you're giving the ball to the person in space, work your way up, the other team has their shape, blah blah blah, eventually somebody will get a shot off. But now it's kind of like, if you win that ruck, you're nearly clear because of the you're in. So
opportunity,
and it's gotten to the stage where there's almost, like they do in hurling, there's almost like this kind of passive acceptance that that's okay for us to give away a kick out, you know, because we're going to get a chance as well. We're going to get the ball back as well.
I won't be hearing about it on the Tuesday review.
Yeah, like it's kind of almost this kind of like tactical subconscious consensus out there that like these are the new terms and conditions, and if we give away a ball in this sort of situation, that's just part of the game now.
And I know you didn't like that, Philly, and probably still don't, because it's a less sophisticated thing, you know?
Like which?
Just that, like, there's less respect for possession, there's less control, fewer controllables. Like, it is less sophisticated from what a coach can control from a joystick. But geez, it's more fun to watch.
Well, it will change.
I'm sure.
My opinion will change in time, because coaches will be able to manipulate the rules or manipulate the shape or the structures or the tactics, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But right now, as it was mentioned by Conor there, like, a lot of teams are playing similarly, and I'd say as a coach, you're thinking, how can I get the edge here? What can I change up?
Yeah.
But it's very hard to do that in its infancy, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to remember that as well, that the rules have actually literally changed as the season has gone on.
No, it's true.
So nobody knew starting this year what they were going to be. At the end of this year, they will know exactly what they're going to be. They'll have video analysis, they'll have statistics, they'll have their own lived personal experience, and then they'll have 5 months to put together a game plan for next year. So next year, I think we'll have far more variation.
Yeah, it might do, but there is still no game plan on the planet that can get around the fact that there's a kick out, there's a press, X number of players are further up the field, keeper can't touch the ball, I've got to kick it this far.
Your best form of defence is attack.
You know what I mean?
That's
like
the nutshell.
That fight, because how many chances over the 4 games were created from a kick out, kind of chest high into someone and like on him, and like it's a fight and it's a turnover and you're in. Like, you can't take your eyes off that.
Yeah. And the rucks, you are right. Like, and they give Martin McNally his due, and Brendan Cawley and David Coldrick this weekend as well. Like, they're looking to see what's happening. I feel like even the old game with the old rules, even though it was slower, refs sort of got into that slow pace as well, where they went down to one end and stopped the play, and then they went down the other end and stopped the play for a free out or a free in. And now they're actually looking to see if there's really a foul in here in these rucks, and we're just fighting for somebody to get a clean hand on the ball.
Does that feel like Joyce is done? He said he's not going to make any rash decisions.
I don't think he will. I don't think he'll go. I'm not sure that there's an obvious contender there in Galway to replace him. And I think he's quite sort of comfortable with the commitment to the job and everything else. Now, there might be a few players who go, as we said, the window might be kind of closing, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was still there next year.
Okay.
He's I get the same sense of the kind of the timeline that McKeon had with Armagh. I think that's where he sees himself, as in staying there when there's a bit, even if there's a bit of a bad patch in his time that he's with Galway.
It's like McGeaney. It's like it would be so hard to walk away when you're so close, like, and they are. And I know they're out in the quarterfinal here now, but like they've gotten so much right, and this season doesn't feel like the time to leave because they didn't really seem to have a settled team all year. They're changing the keeper. Killy McDade's dropped for this match. It just didn't seem as
the injuries didn't
coherent.
Yeah. Do you remember a couple of years ago he did an interview where he almost said, "Oh, my kids almost convinced me over Christmas one more year." So it wasn't like he's immune to the energy it takes or the demands. So we'll see.
But you said about a window, Conor, as well. Like the other thing is, if Donegal or Meath win this year, that's 5 different teams have won it in the last 5 years. I mean, Padraic Joyce and Galway to not win it in those 5 years, they will kick them.
One more thing about Joyce yesterday. Myself and a couple of eagle-eyed people were standing around watching the Galway warm-up, and the Galway players were warming up on one side of the pitch, and Joyce was standing there kicking 2-pointers. And it was just like, do you remember? You know those clips of Zinedine Zidane when he was Real Madrid manager, and he was playing the perfect volley that was coming in, and he was trying to almost like look. Goes, lads, why can't you do this? And like he was standing there, he wasn't taking a step back, and he was floating them over the Canal Island bar with his left foot. I was just like, Jesus Christ!
I wait till see an inter-county manager doing the Klopp. Was it Klopp that used to stand and watch the opposition?
Yeah.
Duff does it as well.
Tyrone 23 points, Dublin 16 points. Sit back, everyone. Ex-Dublin pundits about to destroy Dublin.
I'll start a right here, Philly.
Yeah. What do you say about it? Like it was one of those things. You probably, if you were to look at the hindsight window and revert back to the start of the year, you'd be saying, with the transition of 16 players and the lads, and we've mentioned this so many times, leaders moving on and that, you would have said they'll struggle this year. But that team has shown massive character this year. Take out the Tyrone performance, they've shown massive character. They've shown at times, their weaknesses as well as a group in regards to their performances, but I just think it was coming. The question mark I would have is bringing the lads back to win that 23. Has that impacted the squad, the strength of the squad? Was there enough players bled in defensively over the years as well? And I'm not saying the personnel there is the problem. I'm saying were they given enough development on the pitch over the few years to strengthen up that squad, because I think they did struggle defensively. And then there's a couple of lads there that I think have been brilliant this year in regards to leadership, but it might need a bit of a freshness, and that's what might come next.
Yeah, it's a very natural thing that people weren't blooded and you bring back the greats to win one more All Ireland. Like there's that great, that saying, nothing grows in the shadow of a great. It is hard. Like there's always going to be, I think, a hangover of sorts. They didn't lose the game for the reason I thought they could lose the game. When I imagined Tyrone winning this, I imagined ferocious work rate. And I thought Dublin were going to win, I should say. My success rate in terms of predicting these things was along your lines. But I imagine like Tyrone cleaning them out with breaking ball, ravenous, that kind of a Tyrone ambush. But I thought Dublin competed unbelievably well, had lots of the game, and just refused to take a 2-pointer. And then their shooting generally was poor. Like the Armagh wides wasn't as bad as that, clearly, but that same failing was there. And there was a moment, I remember jotting it down on 48 minutes. I said it to you when I bumped into you earlier, where like there was nothing else on. It was just everyone was marked, everyone was bunched. Kieran Kilkenny of all people had the ball. You're just going to have to take a 2-pointer. It just has to happen. It was into the Canal End as well, turns out, and he was going to, and he came out of it. I'm not going to, and he got swallowed up, and Tyrone went the other way. And Desi Farrell was asked about this afterwards, like the 2-pointer thing. And now that he's a bit freer to talk, he was like, "Yeah, look, we just don't have that profile of player who can kick 2-pointers, and we decided not to make a big thing of it and not to kind of give up an easy 1-pointer by becoming obsessed with 2-pointers and missing them, and that was our thing. But yeah, basically in every game they've been completely outdone 2-pointers. Kerry kicked 5 of them, Monaghan kicked 5 of them. Dublin took 2 2-pointer attempts, missed both. Now when you're in Croke Park on a summer's day, this isn't the league in winter where your footing's bad. This is perfect conditions to kick 2-pointers. Do you have any options? So straight away, first 10 minutes, they're 6-3 down. They've been the better team, but Tyrone have kicked 3 2-pointers. It's a lot of water to try and ship back out of your boat.
My big problem with that, Joe, was how little pressure they were putting on Tyrone coming up the pitch. Like, Tyrone got a couple of kicks away, got the ball up to the D and kicked 2-pointers without anybody actually pressurising the ball. So that was kind of Dublin's biggest failing. They should have been well ahead of half-time. But it kind of felt like when it all started to cave in, like, they did compete very well, they did work very hard, but they lacked any kind of real purpose in attack. They didn't look like they had a particular plan to get people on the ball in those shooting situations.
Well, who would they get on the ball? Who?
I don't agree
forward.
that they don't have
Who's their
point options.
who's their 2-pointer?
Kieran Kilkenny, Brian Howard. I know he missed
Kenny's
one.
not.
Cormac Costello can kick 2-pointers.
But sorry, I don't agree with that at all. Like, I think they have as many 2-pointers as any other team.
Kieran Kenny refused to take a 2-pointer. Was on.
I know, and this is McGuinness could easily kick 2-pointers. Brian Howard could definitely. Paddy Small could do it. Conor Callahan when he's on. Like, they have more than most.
They do have them, but they haven't.
Dublin have
after.
they have an attitude. They've seeped into this 80% zone. Like, so 2-pointers isn't 80%. So like that's ingrained in them. They're like not to take these wild shots. So these players who definitely could kick them, I'd say they almost aren't allowed to if it's not.
If Padraic Joyce can kick them.
Listen, I don't know. Kilkenny did not fancy it.
But Joe, I think there's an interesting point in that, but I do think also there was a play there where Dublin turn them over and go straight down the throat of Tyrone. Paddy Small's on the ball, and there's a player
doesn't give it.
1 or 2 to the left, 1 or 2. The team that I was on are like, when we turn over, we are going for goal, and we are going to run out numbers, and we're going to have a space, and we're going to give it to the man in the best position. And at that stage, Dublin were just happy to clip the ball over the bar. And it was tight at that stage, but to get that breathing space, you need to be ruthless. You need to be giving that man to the back post.
And literally, as Small's kicking it, Costello turns back to him and puts his Ronaldo-style celebration. Is like, you are kidding me.
Yeah.
Goal. Yeah.
That 3 points would give you, if you can reduce those 2-point options for Tyrone, you're getting breathing space. And they just didn't have that enough.
Yeah, but sorry, Conan, you could be right. Like, okay, but I'm looking at them. None of them fancy the 2 points.
Oh yeah, no. Sorry, we're both right here. That's the main takeaway. So,
sounds good to me.
So they have them, they have them, but they don't fancy them. And I wonder, is that just a cultural thing where it's like, if you give the ball away, then that's pointed out more than.
No, I don't think so. I think you'd have to go back down to the league game in Kerry in Tralee when there was younger lads stepping up, pinging them over the bar.
Big win.
Rannoch, first year, was pinging them over the bar. Yeah, but that's a confidence thing. It's, can you take that shot? I think O'Dell came on, took a shot, maybe missed it, and then took the next one and got a 2-pointer. But maybe what I would go to there, Conan, is maybe the confidence in the group. Depending on where they are in the game, then they have more 2-point options. Whereas when they're a couple of points behind, they do kind of fall into it. Oh, who's going to take this?
But what about Desi's point? We don't have many of that profile that can kick.
I don't agree with that. I think they do. I think you look at Dublin's forwards, and if they're all fit, they're one of the best 6 alone. I'd say maybe 7 you could stretch out in the country.
So who there would you say no problem at all will sweep over a 2-pointer for us?
Conor Callahan. Paddy Small.
Okay.
Yeah. Brian Howard, outside of the foot, has it in the locker all day long. Bugler. He was very good in the league. Kind of, you could say he's shooting inconsistent, but I can tell you from training with that lad in COVID for every day of the week, he is very, very accurate.
Fair enough.
But does he have a 2-pointer? He does, but there's a reason why they're not shooting as much. There has to be a reason. Is it because they don't have the shooters? I don't think so. Is it because of the typical? Is it the times in the game? Is it a part of their play, or is it Desi saying, "Let's not go for 2 points. Let's stay." Or the management? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that for me, it's not the 80. Like you talk about the 80% zone to shoot in. My 80% zone is outside the D. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I very rarely shot inside it. Like, you know, I had a lot of that. Yeah. So your 80% is based off, can you kick 8 out of 10 in training in that area? So, and again, that's different when you go on to Croke Park and you're playing in the, you know, an environment like that. But there's definitely players that can kick 2-pointers there, but it's just, I think, the confidence in the time of the game and the pressures and stuff like that.
But there's players there as well, sort of follow on from your point of not bleeding players through. And I get it, it's hard when you're in the shadow of a great and stuff like that, but there's players who would easily be able to do it if they were at a higher profile now, but they just don't feel that in themselves to be able to do that. I mean, like this Dublin team have won, I think up to 2020, they won 6 of the 7 under-20 All-Irelands, or Leinster titles anyway, so it's not like they've had no success, and that's all players now in their late 20s. They have players there, but I just feel like they've missed maybe a year, because I completely actually agree, and I think they should do a documentary on the 2023 Dublin team. Like that is the GAA's last dance. Let's get the band back together and get one more. Yeah. But I think in 24 they definitely should have started refreshing it, because we all saw it coming.
Can I follow a point through to its logical conclusion? So Desi said after, we don't know the profile of 2-pointer shooters. You disagree with that, and with good evidence, you've played with them. Dublin outscored in 2-pointers in basically every championship game they've played. That is a failing of management then?
Well, if they felt that there's something else that's more beneficial, then it's not. But if it doesn't work, well, then it is, yeah. But at the end of the day, this team now, what does it need? Desi has stepped down. He's gave a huge amount of time and service to Dublin over
40 years.
You were saying 40 years. And his legacy is incredible and very hard to be bet. You know, from playing to development squads to 21s and then managing and winning All-Irelands. And let's not forget, he created the GPA. Like, you know, he's an incredible legacy. And unfortunately, there's fans there that have seen Dublin win a lot and will speak probably a small bit negative about Desi, but this man took over a team that a manager, his predecessor, had won five in a row and had won 6 All-Irelands, 7 All-Irelands, 6 All-Irelands, am I right? 6 All-Irelands. Yeah. So very difficult job. But he's done an incredible job from my eyes, and there's a lot of people who say they should have won more. You should always try to win more. That's just not the way it works, though. But the next man going in, I think, is crucial to the point we're talking about, is that they flatten the hierarchy of the group. That they find a way to make sure that everybody is treated, not that they were mistreated, but that the lads that are outside the leaders can feel they can go for it. I'm not sure they would have got that over the last period of 3 to 4 years with those lads coming back in.
Yeah. How could you? You know what I mean? The lads are back.
And they expressed it a little bit this year, the younger lads coming in, when they didn't have players that were there to go, yeah, I'll play a little bit in the league and then they'll come back in. Yeah. The likes of Jack, the likes of Mannion, Smalley to an extent in the league, John Small. And I think that's what needs to happen now. The Dublin fans need to drop the expectations levels down a tiny bit and say, right, this team needs to develop now.
I'll come back to who next man in should be in a second. Give us a word on Desi, because he probably is the most underappreciated 2-time All-Ireland winning manager in history now, I'd say.
Yeah, like Jim McGuinness only has to win this year's All-Ireland to match Desi's strike rate of 2 All-Irelands in 6 years as manager. But you know, people will talk about, say, the 2020 All-Ireland as being some sort of residual success from the Jim Gavin era, and that's an understandable assessment to make because they won the previous 5 All-Irelands. But like you don't just turn up and win the thing, you know, like in a very, very sort of tumultuous situation with COVID and lockdowns and everything else. Desi had to keep that group's levels at an all-time high, and like if you're saying that Jim Gavin's fingerprints were on that win, you have to remember that Desi Farrell's fingerprints were over all the Dublin wins after 2015, because when he started with Dublin, he started with an under-13 West team. And from that, he went through the development squad. And those players who were born in 1993, Kieran Kilkenny, Cormac Costello, John Small, Paul Mannion, who did I miss? All of those players, he had them for 7-8 years. So his influence was on them and how they played football and how they went about their business well before they played at senior level. And I would say that when Desi envisaged himself taking the Dublin senior job. There's no way he would have envisaged the fact, like thinking that most of those lads were already had won 5 All-Irelands, that some of them were, like, he only got kind of 2 half years out of Jack McCaffrey when he got to that level. So the circumstances, I'm sure, weren't what he would have envisaged when he took over at senior level. But I think given the circumstances that were there in front of him when he took over, I think 2 All-Irelands in 6 years is a fair haul.
I hadn't realised till I read your piece that he was kind of a little bit prodigious as well. 3 years as a minor, and captained the under-21 hurlers the same year he made his senior football debut.
Yeah.
So he had game. It was phenomenal.
Talent.
Talent.
And I think Desi would have always seen it as well as a lifetime. You know, he retired in 05, and by 07 he was and he could have very easily, going back to Jack O'Connor's point,
yes,
he could have very easily at that stage said, well, I'm Dessie Farrell, I'll take over the Dublin minors or whatever the stepping stone. But to go down that deep, and I know people who were involved with him over the years, to go down that deep and the work that he put in to bring that group all the way up. And that win that Dublin had in 2012, it's still Dublin's only minor All-Ireland in 43 years, which is a fairly sort of incredible stat.
So that's really good context for why he goes and should go with everybody's, huge respect. It's phenomenal. Paul Flynn last night in the Sunday game, Philly, was trying to talk about next man in, but he was I got the impression he didn't have time to expand on the point, television being tight and all that. But Dublin County Board, are they a bit asleep at the wheel, was the phrase used. He used that in respect of underage teams, but more so when Jim was going, Desi was being lined up. There was planning and future-proofing ahead. He's like, I don't see anyone lined up at the moment, and question mark over Dublin County Board and where you all are.
Paul Flynn, I remember one year had a great quote. He said, we have to fix the roof when the sun is shining. That was in regards to the team that we had when we were winning. And that was probably, if you use that quote in regards to Dublin in general, that's probably what should have happened but didn't. In terms of the system that was put in play for the success that we had, that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, so when you've 13 years, 2 managers in 13 years, and you've won the amount of All-Irelands and other things from that kind of time span, then you would kind of say, well, that really works, Who's next to put in the 2 managers into the minor and the 20s or 21s, whatever it was? That never happened. And then with really big personalities stepping aside for whatever reason in the county board, one in particular that he spoke about so highly is John Costello. He was a massive influence in the Blue Wave and everything that happened, and I've never heard someone speak a bad word about him. Very, there was a huge amount of respect for John Costello, and he was a huge part of why we were so successful. So he's not there now. There's a new man at top table, and there's others probably not there so long. There's probably others there that probably are there a good while, and it can be, when it's like that, you have those people will have blind spots, and there's a freshness needed. I think there's an important job at hand here for the Dublin manager, but I think there's a bigger job in regards to a director of football, or somebody that's going to bring people to these managerial jobs, coaching jobs, go outside of the realm of GAA, look at other organisations, and try get Dublin to where they maybe, of the second Blue Wave. I don't know, but there's certainly a working group to be created in regards to the next strategy for the I'd say the next 3 to 5 years.
And who's next man in?
I don't really know. That's the thing with Dublin. It's you can eliminate a couple of variables, like, do they go outside the county? Not really. Do they go for managers that have managed other county jobs? Not really, but times have changed. The pool is getting smaller. I think for me, probably top 2 at the minute, I would see Dec Darcy being a really good option. He was in for the job, alongside, not alongside, Desi was going for it, and so was he. Is that a bit of a stain on going back to Dec and asking him to come in after Desi? I'm not too sure. That's up to Dec, but he has a huge respect. He's very respected within the circle of Dublin GAA and the players. Some of the players that are there, and probably the new lads that are there that haven't worked with him, will learn a huge amount from him. He's working with Leinster, so he's went off and done new things that could bring new energy and new stuff into the environment. But he's one option. I think Jer Brennan definitely is an option. He's done unreal with Loud, and then there's a couple of others that are floating around. There's a couple of names that are, you know, they're definitely in the list, but those two for me are the top two at the minute.
Okay.
If they don't take it,
Keep your phone on.
I don't know. Yeah, is it Damien Duff? I don't know.
Time definitely coming against us. Conan, Donegal 126, Monaghan 120. Sorry, we I know sailed by Tyrone a bit there. It's a bit harsh on Tyrone, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Tyrone, it's amazing that they won and they did some really impressive things. They weren't that good either themselves. I think if you told their fans that they were going to play that badly, and they didn't think they would beat Dublin by 7 points then in the end. I don't think it was a 7-point win, but it shows how emphatic they were in the end when they got their foot on the gas. They didn't let up, and the bench options. I mean, Malachy O'Rourke was so ruthless and he had so much conviction. Like Darren McCurry, one of their stalwarts, like, come off after 50 minutes. It's not happening for you, and it's tough to make that decision, especially when it's a forward who can just turn it on at some stage. But he's like, I've got the reserves here, and obviously McElhone and Rory Canavan off the bench are the ones who stole the headlines. But yeah, so there was a lot of impressive elements for Tyrone, and now they have Kerry to focus their minds as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk Tyrone more in advance of that game, obviously. So Donegal by 6 against Monaghan. Down by 7 at half time. Donegal. So that 7 is not nothing. They were very flat in the first half. Monaghan, Beggin kicked a 2-pointer, which settled them, and they played really well for last 20 minutes of that first half. And then, by all accounts, Jim McGuinness went through Donegal at half time, and they scored 11 points without response at one stage. 115 to 5 points. They outscored Monaghan that second half. Like there was a period where Monaghan, even when they weren't scoring, they did have chances. Like Gary Mohan kicked one short, kicked one wide, subbed off. That kind of a period for Monaghan. And Michael Langan, brilliant second half, scored 1-3. That is how you take a goal chance kind of a moment. And I guess it's a very impressive Donegal performance to come from 7 behind. The fatigue in the first half, you can kind of put that down to maybe the schedule a little bit. And so they now get to rest for a week and will absolutely fancy Meath and will be pretty much everyone's tip to be in an All-Ireland final and some people's tip to win.
Yeah, that'll be a hard one to swallow if Conor ends up being right after all this. But yeah, like
that's the big story here, isn't it?
Yeah, we're all pulling for Meath.
The thing about Donegal, even though they're tired and there have been complaints about the fixtures and venues, it seems like they are ramping up through the gears very ominously. They do look impressive, and I think what I liked was that McGuinness sort of left them at it for the second half. It was like, these boys aren't performing. They're getting outplayed. Monaghan obviously brought a lot to the table.
Yeah.
But it was like, get out and fix it. If you want to win an All-Ireland, these are the sort of situations now you have to get yourself out of, and they were well able to do it. And yeah, Michael Langan, every time I see him play, he looks like an underage player that's it's just too big for that age group, and he's going to be unbelievable when he comes through as a senior. But my God, he's still doing it at that level.
They kicked 126 from 26 scoring chances, which is absolutely
their
incredible.
Efficiency has been unreal.
Off the charts. They had 3 wides all night, and they were all from Michael Murphy.
I read that stat and thought I saw it on Twitter, and I thought probably not true.
No, totally true. Yeah. And
so should Michael Murphy come out of the team?
But do you know the player that we're talking about there being really important now, the Oisin Connaughty sort of a player, or that person who gets the ball on the edge of the D and sizes up a man and makes a bit of separation with pace that can shoot on the run. Don't you got to have 3 or 4?
I was just about to
Shane O'Donnell
answer that there. Yeah. Like, I knew you were going straight away.
Yeah, Niall O'Donnell, like they just have so many of these guys. It's almost like the team is reverse engineered for this new game. They know exactly how to play it.
The one thing I'd say is there's been a pattern over the last couple of games now that I think Meath will have to have a look at. Like, so if you look at their start, their first half, v Louth, v Mayo, and Monaghan, teams have kept it tight. But then, as mentioned, they're just so consistent in the play by play that it's like they're looking at the scoreline and going, we don't actually care what the score is. We're just constantly playing here.
Was it wear a team down eventually? Is that what happens?
Well, they're going to have so much confidence going in against anybody that they'll know that if the first half's not going their way, they just keep sticking to their process. It's what we would have done massively and focused on, and they do it really, really well. The best I've seen in a while. But if you're trying to combat that, you have to say, right, okay, we need to really ramp it up in quarter one and quarter three, and we need to put them on the back foot and make them draw them out and keep going at them, which is going to be very, very hard because they've shooters everywhere.
Yeah.
Patton's kickouts are just absolutely incredible as well. He has not just the distance, but he has the trajectory as well. So, like, he gets the ball to its target a little bit quicker than most other goalkeepers, which means the opposition have less time. Because you're looking at the distance between his long-range targets and the person who's supposed to be marking him, and you're saying, well, that's not, he's close enough that he can close the gap. But actually, the ball comes with such a punchy ball flight that you can't. Like, you just can't. You literally have to be standing on his toes.
You're not meant to fizz one a really, really long way.
Oh, yeah. And like that, what he did in the second half, finding those mid-range runners, like the amount of coordination between different people, like the move and target, and they're so well drilled. And I know Jerry Brennan called it the repeat sprint ability the previous week, and how they can go and go and go and go again. But they were just incessant in the second half, and that was with a 6-day turnaround. Like, they are just so well conditioned, and they look like, injury wise, I can't think of a Donegal player who's not available to them at the moment. McColgan, who didn't start the other night, I think he's supposed to be back for the semi-final. So in terms of a squad and their profile, and having all the necessary bits and pieces, and now having the rest after not having had any rest, they're in a serious place.
Do you know what's worth mentioning as well is McGuinness coming out and saying the statement that went out was from the board, but was nothing to do with them. I just find most managers don't really say those things. It's just real raw honesty and going, that wasn't us. That's nothing to do with this team. Like,
was it honesty though, or
I'd say it is. Like, why would you say it then? Why would you actually?
Because of sort of backlash of it, and then thought that it looks bad on me.
Well, it's post that. He would just. Why would you mention it at all then? Do you know? Like, I just think he is at the stage where he is on a pedestal that he can say that about County Board that he's working with, like,
Yeah.
And they will respect that. That's okay to say. If we have this relationship, you should be able to say that thing of, look,
Donegal County Board issues letter of apology to Jim McGuinness. And Jim, we're sorry.
Sorry, Jim.
Jim, sorry. To round off, in a word, your All-Ireland football final favourite is Donegal, you.
Well,
And if you hadn't tipped them at the start of the year,
it'd be Kerry.
it would be Kerry,
Yeah, I think
based on the awesomeness of that salvo.
Well, if they can do it once, they can do it again.
Sometimes, it's hard to do that again.
Yeah.
That 15 minutes was,
Okay, Donegal, Joe.
No. So Kerry for you.
No, Donegal.
Donegal.
Yeah.
Okay. Philly.
I can't remember who I said at the start here.
That's a good way to be.
I've said it for a while, Donegal.
You said Mayo, I think.
Donegal. Conan, who's your favourite?
I don't know. I'm fed up with these predictions. Like, I feel beaten down.
That's because you tipped Dublin.
I tipped Dublin at the start of the year.
It's based on what we saw at the weekend.
The best thing I did this weekend was not answer the Armagh Kerry game, because I was like,
Yeah. But you're allowed update new evidence all the time.
You're right, Joe. You're right. And I think right now I'm going to go with Kerry. But it wouldn't be surprised if Meath, Donegal, or Tyrone.
Just stop, will you, Conan? You said it. Just stop.
We all understand, is it?
But.
Yeah. 2 Donegals and a Kerry. All right. Fellas, great stuff. Conor Doherty, Conor McKeon, Philly McMahon. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Joe.
Cheers. Thanks, Joe.